Hello.
All right.
Hello.
There we go. So thanks everyone for staying. I know the tables have gotten smaller, but we appreciate you sticking with us on Saturday. So we are doing the social panel. This is not mobile. I'm Michele Doyle, Director of Business Development at Shoutlet. If you guys don't know what Shoutlet is, it's a social media management software solution that allows you to help publish to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and work your Facebook tabs and do contesting. It's a platform that basically lets you manage all your social media in one place. So that's why I'm moderating, and I'll let everybody else introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Damian Borashevsky, Vice President Professional Services with PulsePoint, formerly known as Stormpost. So we're an ESP, and we do a lot of multi-channel work. I'm responsible for our strategy services, deliverability, integration, campaign management, and creative. So working with our clients to help them get their email programs launched, design multi-channel programs, and figure out what to do with social media.
I'm Liz Gould. I'm Director of Strategic Accounts for Experian Cheetah Mail, another ESP. And I work with some of our largest brands with their ongoing strategy and innovation, including my team's responsible for Neiman Marcus, DirecTV, SiriusXM, Victoria's Secret, American Eagle, Chico's in the back there. So I work with my clients trying to figure out, we're talking about social today, so how to integrate social into email, best practices, the things they should be looking out for, just improving their programs overall and making sure that they're happy.
And I'm Anna Lee. I'm the Director of CRM for Universal Music Group. We are the largest music company in the world. We represent a variety of artists from some you may have heard of, like Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga.
Who?
Unless you've been living under a rock. And my team handles a bunch of different central services. We act kind of like an agency for our labels. Our labels do the marketing, they manage the artists, and we help them as much as we possibly can.
Excellent. Well, when we were chatting about our panel today, we found it very interesting that many of the sessions that have already gone on, many of the presentations, covered a lot about social. I think Liz called this the Social Media Envy Insider Summit. So
Sorry.
we actually, and I do attend the Social Media Insider Summit, but we actually changed up a little bit about what we were going to talk about. We will talk about some examples, but what I found interesting is everybody talked about technologies and integration with data and things like that, but I was at an Email Insider Summit in December of 2009, and they polled the audience, which I'd like to poll now as well, at how many of you email marketers were running your social media program. And when they polled them, actually more than 50% of the room raised their hand. So I'd like to poll you guys, of the email marketers, how many are you guys in charge of your social media program now? We've got 2, 3. So way different. Things have changed since 2009. I know a lot of people went from email into social, like myself. I have an email background, but I was interested.
Yeah, well, when we were talking about this, I was saying it's interesting with the brands that I work with, which are quite large. I don't think I have one client who really has their email and social together. And while we're advising on how to integrate social into email, I think that the groups have been really separate, so making that push to kind of do the opposite, use email and social, has been a little bit harder.
And it's interesting because our central team here, I actually manage both the email and social pieces. So I really make my team look at what they're doing in email. We've got an expert that does email. We do have an expert that does social, but we're in the same team. We talk a lot together about how we do that integration. And like I said, we're part of that central group that acts kind of like an agency like you guys do. But at our labels, they might have a person that does only social or only email. But then we've also got people that do everything from email, social, marketing plans. So we have a little bit of integration, but it's an interesting thing because I think I was talking to a couple of people that they're trying to work with their social groups, and social's doing one thing, and email people are doing another thing, and you don't really see that integration anymore with the marketing plans.
And what we've seen is, I think the smaller the client, the more likely it is that there's that shared role. Some of our smaller retail clients do have a person who has the authority to tweet, but it may not be their main social person. So I think that definitely helps when you're trying to integrate something like Twitter with email, where you have somebody who can send out a tweet but may not have a full responsibility for the whole social program.
Yeah, I find it interesting also because now I'm going and meeting with all the social media people and their teams, and email never comes up. So I really think it's important. One thing you should take away is if you're not meeting with your social media team on a regular basis, the social media teams come from a different background. A lot of them are PR, a lot of them aren't marketing background. They're hiring personalities, writers, and they don't ever at all think about other marketing channels, especially email. I ask about them all the time. Major brand, Dunkin' Donuts, I was speaking with last week. She does all the social, and she's like, we never talk to our email team. We never crisscross ideas. We never do cross-promotional. So I think it's a good idea.
There's a great example of just that, where one of our labels, he is the social guy, and the email person had left. And so he was tasked to take it over, because it's like, oh, it's just email, just take it over as a communication channel. And we were talking about an app developer that develops applications called Crowd Factory, and they had put in a button there to create an email so you could copy the HTML, put it into your email program, and then send that out. And he's like, well, I would never use that. And we're like, why wouldn't you want to tell the email, people on your email list about the program? And he kind of thinks about it, and he's like, good point. So now, he's been exposed to it, so he kind of feels a little bit more part of the program, and hopefully he can help with that further integration.
Perfect. I also found some things interesting, too, about integrating your social. We've talked about it again throughout the panel, but a couple weeks ago, I was at a conference, and there was a stat up there that the number one, it broke down by travel, retail, and media, that the most referred network. So when you're thinking about integrating social within email, the number one network was Facebook for all those. But the second for all of them, for number two, they were all different. For media, it was social and StumbleUpon. So if you're in the media space, I would definitely recommend doing more on those social networks. Obviously, the easy for retail would be Pinterest, and for the travel, it was Yelp. So you've got to look at these other niche social networks out there and where are traffic that you should refer to.
Yeah, so I wanted to give a shout out to Pinterest. I'm a huge fan, and not just for retail too, I think for publishers. I think even Anna, thinking about posting lifestyle pictures on Pinterest for your artists. What we're finding, and even talking to some of you guys here, is that people who are coming from Pinterest to your website are actually converting higher. So what you're doing is you're creating these curators who are really interested in a product or maybe even a recipe, and they're going to the site after already liking that specific product, and they're actually making that purchase maybe sooner because they've seen it first on Pinterest. I've been advising my clients to integrate with Pinterest since it came out. We're seeing a lot of our clients testing, and I'll give you guys some stats and examples. I know people have been kind of hungry for that. So, for example, some of our clients that are doing a great job with this, Barney's has integrated Pinterest on their website. They've included a follow link for Pinterest in their welcome series. They're doing a great job of showcasing their boards in their emails. Ballard Designs, another client, they're owned by the Cornerstone brands. They actually included the pin it button in their emails. So under very specific products, they're kind of testing that out. And from one email, they saw upwards of 1,000 pins just from that email. And now, you think like, what does that mean? It's not a purchase, it's a pin. But when you think about the fact that the people that are then going to your website and are making a purchase are converting higher, I just think it makes so much sense to try and cultivate and create those boards and those pins and that following on Pinterest. The other thing that we're seeing, we've been benchmarking how including Pinterest in the subject line or the words pin it, how that affects opens and clicks. And what we're seeing is an increase in engagement, so increased opens and increased clicks. So I'd recommend testing that. And we were talking about what does social mean to us, and I feel like we hear at a lot of conferences and people say it's so hard to monetize off of social, and I think we kind of pigeonhole social in that regard. I think people are thinking about Facebook when they say that. I really feel like there's a lot of room in a lot of other channels. Don't just think about social as Facebook. Like I said, I think Pinterest is really a great tool for all of you. I also, want to give a shout out to one of our partners, Bazaar Voice. You might not think of that as social, but I certainly do, especially when you see, and you can utilize some of your customers' comments in emails. American Eagle Outfitters is one of our clients, and we've been pushing them to use some of the reviews in their emails, both from Facebook and from their Bazaar Voice reviews. So they, I love them because they love to test, they love to innovate. And what they did is they did a 3-way test where they put Bazaar Voice reviews in an email versus kind of a style editor or an expert review, and then no review in an email. And what they saw was that the Bazaar Voice reviews in the email, perfect strangers, just people saying they loved a product, it actually did better. And I wrote down the stats. So the email with the Bazaar Voice reviews had a 16% lift in revenue per delivered. So their clicks and their transactions actually increased from including those types of communications and emails. And I would advise you on not just using Bazaar Voice reviews, but your what people are saying on Facebook, what people are maybe even pinning on Pinterest, or putting on Instagram or whatever sites that you're using. I think that that's a really fabulous way to try and increase your metrics and monetize off of social media.
And I would totally bring that same fact where it's, I think Morgan was trying to say this, where you're featuring fans. Whenever the fans can be featured, and we try to do that where we can, but obviously the artist likes to be the center of attention. But if you can feature a fan, feature a comment, it's a really great thing. And I just wanted to address Michelle's comment also about that different industries have different kind of niche social networks. Ours is Tumblr. And that's one thing that we're trying to push for with our ESP, is to include Tumblr as one of the options for when we do our social sharing tools within our email.
Yeah, I don't think Beachbody's here, and they're not a client of ours, but I think they do an awesome job of turning their customers into their salespeople. And I think that a lot of brands can learn from that. If you look at the P90X model, I mean, every infomercial you see is nothing but their customers. So, apply that to social. What can you do with your content to make it more easily shareable? Make it, break it into chunks. People aren't going to want to share an entire newsletter. They're going to want to share one picture on Pinterest or one story or one snippet. So make it easy for your customers to become your Salesforce because it's free.
I also wanted to make another point about the Bazaar Voice reviews too. Michele and I were at their conference a couple weeks ago, and their CMO, Erin, was talking about how the younger generation really listens to strangers, which I found really interesting. I think she made the quote that 51% of people actually will listen to a stranger over their friends. So, and I think that's a really interesting stat and something to think about when you're incorporating some of your fans' information into emails. People really like to hear from, people at large, not necessarily the hard sell from the brand. And I think that that's something that we all can kind of learn from.
And then that kind of leads into what we talked about with the new Foursquare email. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So not one of our emails, obviously, but we were just talking about the Foursquare emails that have recently come out. So if anyone's Foursquaring here and checking into the Email Insider Summit, maybe in the next couple months, you'll see an email that comes to you that says, hey, remember when you were at this event, look at what your friends are doing, and then also last year, look at what you were doing at this time. And I think it's a really great application of a social network, providing that information, all this information that they have, and showing kind of the social things that you have that are going on. And it's something that we want to try to see if we can apply to our emails as well.
So we've talked a little bit about integrating social into email, but how can we integrate getting more email opt-ins out of your social channels? You guys have any examples of that?
Yeah, I think that there was a great discussion a couple weeks ago on the influencers list about why aren't there any great case studies around integrating social media and email yet? And I think a lot of it is that, and from most of what I saw the last 2 days, the focus has been on how do I get people to social through email, and I think we need to look at it the opposite way. How do we use social to push to email? I mean, we're all email marketers, so it should be in our best interest to use social to help out email, not vice versa. And obviously, you want to be a team player and do both. I think that we've had some pretty good, it's still early results, but on our platform, we just in the last 6 months released the ability to time a tweet or a Facebook post with your email campaign. So you're sending out a short time sale type email, and as that email goes out, you also tweet and tell people, hey, go check your inbox for this friends and family offer or this 24-hour sale or whatever. And we've seen between 10 and 20% lift in opens from those campaigns that are taking advantage of that. And that's kind of going back to what I was talking about with some of the smaller fashion brands we work with, where that email marketer does have the authority to tweet on behalf of the company. I think there's really a lot of value there.
Oh, and I was going to say, just, when, sorry, I know before. We try to insist on acquisition at the social point. So on our Facebook pages, we're working with our labels and artists to make sure that they have acquisition opportunities. So now that we have timeline, you see those tabs are very clear, trying to provide that value proposition to sign up for the email list. And sweepstakes are very easy for us, so usually we're getting a lot of signups that way, or a free music download. But even when you don't have anything going on, to have that. We're also insisting that the application vendors that we work with as well include email acquisition that goes straight right into our email vendor, so that it's not sitting on their server and has to be exported, because that's probably not going to be exported for a while, and then by the time you try to import that, you're probably lost those customers. But hopefully we can try to integrate all those different pieces so we do get everything within our email channel.
I agree. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to say the same thing. I think now that Facebook Timeline has come out, I've been advising my clients to really take advantage of the real estate on the the homepage. You used to have to kind of bury where you signed up for email. Now you can actually have it front and center. I think it's also really important to make sure that you're tailoring the sign up and even the email to the user once they've signed up on Facebook. Again, American Eagle does a great job. They have one of their brands is Aerie. It's a lingerie brand, and once you've signed up for their email on Facebook, they actually say, we're glad that you like us, and they make sure to acknowledge the fact that you came in on Facebook. I haven't seen as much sign up through Twitter and Pinterest, and I think people are really trying not to kind of corrupt Pinterest and make it sort of salesy, but I think that we're going to end up seeing different ways of integrating email sign up via Pinterest. I think via Twitter and some of the other social networks, but I think maybe we could all put our heads together and think of some good ways. I think Facebook is certainly the easiest to integrate with right now.
And I think there's some really low-hanging fruit for us in the email space. Every time everyone in here, I'm sure, has a preference center of some sort, some kind of web sign up for email. That same exact code can be used to generate email through Facebook. So it used to be a bunch of different technology. Now the same exact script can be used. So if you have this sign-up page, go to your social team and say, look, we've already got this done. We need to put this on Facebook. I think it was last year here that I think it was Jeff Rohr's had a stat that was an email address collected through Facebook is three times more likely to check their email multiple times a day than an email collected through some other source. So, the people that are on Facebook are on their phones all day, are constantly in their inbox. So those are the email addresses we want to get. So anything we can do to enable that is going to only help the program.
The other thing we haven't talked about is Facebook Connect. Is anyone using Facebook Connect on their website? We got 1, 2, Overstock. So it's another great way of collecting emails. I mean, you're kind of in one click getting a lot of data from these people. We have a few clients using it, including 1-800-Flowers, and they're actually then taking a lot of that data and then putting it back into their emails. So one of the emails that I love that they do is once you've connected through Facebook Connect, they're then sending you emails of your friends' upcoming birthdays with flower or gift recommendation based on upcoming friend birthdays. And I think that's a really nice connection there, and another great way to obviously get people's email and a lot of other information.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think there's some great programs out there that link up once you've signed up on an application on Facebook, that they're alerting you on new offers or deals, or maybe things that your friends are doing via email. And actually, I'm totally not kissing up to Naomi, but I love this program. It's the Link Like Love. And I went on there. I'm like, oh yeah, there's these great offers, and there's like this $5 off at Redbox, and we're always like going there.
If you don't know what it is, I think you connect your credit card.
You connect
right?
your credit card, and then you get different offers. And if you buy it at a certain point, whatever the offer is, then they can refund, I guess, back some of your money. And so I signed up on the application, and I guess I didn't realize I was signing up for emails, but I was okay with receiving the email that said, hey, here are the next offers. So I was like, oh, great. Even if I don't see something, I'm kind of waiting for that, because I've got my American Express card, and I can use it for these, and I don't have to, I don't know, send in a receipt or something so that I get my refund back.
Yeah, on that same note, I think we work with a lot of the social gaming companies, so Draw Something from OMG Pop and Kabam, and these are all largely social mobile-based companies, and we've seen a real push, especially in the last probably 18 months to a year, for them to really push their communications into email from the social channel. So I think that's an interesting trend. It's showing that the value of email is there in the eyes of these social companies. They're seeing these just ridiculous open rates, 75%, 50 or 75% open rates on game-generated emails. And they're really getting a lot of pressure from their executives because they're seeing the success they're having with email to do even more and more email and kind of push people out of that social platform into email, which I think is a really interesting change.
I think it's interesting too that email is very succinct information, where social, you've got this river of information, and you're like, how do I scroll through all of this? So we're trying to incorporate some of the social tweets from our artists. We want to, so one of our email newsletters, we have an algorithm that takes the Twitter feed of an artist, finds the most popular one, the most commented one, and brings that into the email so that at least someone can see, one of the tweets instead of reading the hundreds of tweets that our artists do.
Yeah, we were talking about this before. We have an exclusive partnership with Movable Ink, and they do a lot of that, so they can actually take in tweets in real time, Facebook check-ins. They do a lot of other really cool stuff, but it's something interesting to look out for. I can't remember. I think someone said there was another company that's similar to them that you were.
Echo.
Echo, if you guys are interested.
That's
in
who we're using.
Exactly.
And just to put my deliverability hat on for a second and jumping back to the Facebook Connect conversation. So one thing I'd caution you about, what we've seen, again, working with a lot of these social gaming companies who are getting most of their email addresses initially from Facebook Connect, is that the Facebook email addresses are not great. They're typically an older address, a lot of inactives in there. I mean, if you think about it, when I signed up for Facebook probably 5, 6 years ago, at the time, they didn't really even require an active email address. I don't even know if they verified it at the time. And the one I gave, I ended up dropping that domain, and I think it was probably 2 years after I dropped that domain before they figured it out and asked me for a new one. So I wouldn't blindly accept the email addresses from Facebook Connect. Put some kind of incentive out there. Tell them you're going to send them something of value to their inbox, so they're going to and prompt them for a new email address. And that's a program we've seen a lot of success with recently. In the game, say, we're going to send you some free game currency. Is this the right email address? And then give them the opportunity to give you the correct one, because it's just you're going to get their backup account. I think Barry said yesterday, that Facebook's sending 6 billion email messages a day, or 3 billion or 6 billion. So clearly, people are not giving you their primary email address if that much traffic's going to those inboxes. So just check out those addresses.
I think it brings up a good point that you guys have talked about, this Facebook Connect and building social profiles. We, in our platform, can build social profiles and gather data from contests and things like that. So are you guys doing anything or seeing your clients do anything like segmenting? So maybe sending different content to people are connected with you on Facebook. Have you got that far yet? I know the data panel talked about a little bit of that. So.
Not a whole lot. I mean, like I said, if we know someone's come in through a social channel, we're starting them at least in the stream by thanking them for coming in through Facebook. I don't know that, I think that's where we want to go, and we're partnering with you guys, but I think that would be something that we'd love to think about in the future.
Oh, and I was going to ring the same. I mean, I think we have a challenge. There's some people here that have the central database, which we don't, and we're working on, and that'll probably help us with identifying those trends. But I mean, there's a great example right now. If you have heard of Spotify, it's a free music streaming service. right now, if you have to sign up on Facebook sign in with Facebook in order to use the service, and it tells you when you've got a new friend that comes on to Spotify. So that's something that I want to take that model and use that for our website registration. So if a friend comes on to the Lady Gaga site, I want someone to know that they're on the Lady Gaga site as well, and they can start socializing with them about that.
I like the idea, though, of sort of triggering based on a social action, and we were talking about this. I know that Shoutlet helps with that. I've been advising our clients also on thinking about doing that from their website. So Barney's, like I said before, they have Pin It on their site, they have Like on their site. If you know someone's going to a website, I'm going to Barney's, I'm liking or I'm pinning a pair of Christian Louboutins, why not trigger an email series to me talking about, the entire collection of shoes or some other things that I might like? You're gonna get so much data from those links on your site. I think you have to think about how to utilize that in email, and think about the different triggers that you can be using. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of that, but it's something that I'm pushing my clients to do.
So I think that one thing that we're seeing some of our retail clients do is try to create that exclusive feel that Facebook was founded on and targeting their influencers. So we can track referred clicks. So if someone shares content, how many clicks does that share generate? And what we've seen kind of across the spectrum of our clients, all different industries, is a share is worth about 5 clicks across the board. So, capture the people that are sharing your content, create special offers, your premium stuff for those people, really shareable stuff that they're going to then push out to their network and kind of get that viral spread. And I think that's it's definitely one way to measure. All right, how many clicks is this person generating for me? They're becoming, back to the P90X, they're becoming your sales force for you.
I'm frankly, it's interesting, the sharing. We're definitely seeing, we're putting the like button in emails, and, we've always had the forward to a friend. And when you look at the end of the day, people really aren't using them as much as I think we'd all like, right? People are hitting forward on Outlook, people are hitting forward on Gmail, and luckily we have technology now. We partner with Litmus. I don't know if anyone else uses them, but they can actually see how people are forwarding the emails, and I think it's important to take a look at that too, because while I think we advise our clients on the best emails to use that like and forward in. I think a friends and family email is really great, but I think just on a general email where you're just putting like a like, I don't know that people are incented to use that technology, but I think you still want to look at the viral effects based on, a forward from your email client. And I suggest maybe, looking at Litmus and utilizing their technology to track that as well.
I do want to give you guys some caution as well. So think through your campaigns before. I have heard some stories where things backfired. So there was a brand that had an older generation that was more their clients, and they were trying to gain younger generation to keep that pipeline full. And they did a email campaign that promoted a Facebook-only promotion, and their main older generation hated that because a lot of them didn't have Facebook accounts, and it blew up in their face. They're brand advocates and didn't like it at all. So think through who you're doing and sending to, and if you have certain generations that might not have this technology or use it. I don't know how we're doing on time because I'm not exactly sure when we started. Anyone?
I think we have 10 more minutes. I see a flashing in the back. Oh, really? 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Do you want to take any questions from the audience? Sure. Take a break. You guys have any questions on social?
Social integrations.
Bradford.
Thank you. Here you go. Sorry, I'm slow.
So Bradford, Overstock.com. For the ESPs, do you see, because Pinterest is a relatively small number of employees still, it's growing fast, but do you see any kind of limitations that you would be inclined to engage Pinterest to work with them to help them develop integrations faster? Clearly they're not as connected as Facebook is with email and other channels. Do you see any opportunities there?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we have a one-click like integration with Facebook, and the Pinterest integration is a little bit clunky. We have a link or a page that we've created for our clients to generate links to create that pin it button in emails, but it's not. it's not necessarily elegant. It also doesn't really work on the phone. I mean, I don't know if you really can't pin from the app. I think that there's a lot that we could be doing to work with Pinterest to figure out how to enhance via email, whether it's, more easily liking from email, trying to figure out how it could work in kind of the mobile space as well. I don't know if you have it.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, the nice thing for all the brands is that it's the ESP's problem, right? So the brands, you guys kind of get to take advantage of the functionality, and our dev teams have to figure out how to make it work. And what we saw with Facebook when it first came online, 5 or 6 years ago, and was kind of being talked about with email integration, was it was a constantly moving target. It seemed like every 2 weeks they were changing their APIs and allowing you to do different things and not allowing you to do what they used to allow you to do, and it was just like herding cats trying to keep the integration current. So I'd expect to see that with the smaller ones like Pinterest, where we're going to have to change our API integration methods probably quarterly for the next year until they really kind of normalize and figure out what are the 3 or 4 key things that they want to allow you to do from email, from web.
Sounds like Facebook.
Yeah. All right.
It's better.
Got another question here.
Hi, Catherine Kress with Meredith Accelerated Marketing. 2 questions for you guys. Do you have any sort of stats or sense on if you have the always-on functionality for email collection on your Facebook pages or social sites, what percentage of fans typically will sign up? And then secondly, do you have any good examples or point of view around whether you just put that functionality out there or whether you create some sort of a program to encourage the email signups through social, and what types of programs seem to work the best?
Sure. On the second one, once we've launched these sign-up pages on Facebook, we've definitely had some clients. We worked on specific creative to drive drive people, both to Facebook to get them to share, get them to sign up. I think there's a lot of the sweepstakes stuff works great for driving signups. We had a client who's in education space, and they ran a promotion that for every level they hit with Facebook fans, they were going to give a scholarship away to one of their fans, and it's an early education site. And every time they hit 10,000, 20,000, they were going to increase the value of the scholarship. And it wasn't just fans; it was that they actually had to be a fan who was signing up through email. So I think that the promotions like that really can make a big difference, where you're getting your fans to again become your salespeople, get more fans because they want to see the value of that scholarship increase. So the sweeps are kind of, it's kind of it makes you feel a little dirty sometimes, but I think they're really effective, especially with generating Facebook.
I was going to say, we have a network of sites where we have a single sign-on. So if you go from one site, you register, and then you go to another site, you're automatically signed on. We definitely see a dip in email subscribers because of that. So you do have to have that messaging on there to give that value proposition to sign up. So we're working on testing different ways, whether it's we know you're not signed up, so we're going to pop up a message to encourage you, or we've got an always email sign-up form that's also available on the page so then people can sign up.
I think for our clients, when we looked at stats of email sign-up from Facebook when it was kind of, in a tab or buried, it was pretty low. I don't know that I have enough clients that have been up long enough on timeline. I think good examples are probably JCPenney, Lilly Pulitzer. There's some of our clients that have made sure to put an email sign up front and center, and we certainly can pull some metrics. I think that's a really good question. But we do advise our clients on telling people why to sign up on Facebook, and I think similarly to how people have kind of tried different things on their websites and been aggressive, whether it's, putting a pop-up for sign up or telling people they're going to get 15% off their first offer, or Adidas, has done a great job of testing on their website. They have, a link for sign up on their footer, on their header, on their, on every page. They make sure to tell people that what they're gonna get for signing up, and I think that's really important. The space is a little bit small, but I think we can get creative. I think we're gonna see more and more of that probably in the future, and you even could, put something front and center, in that, main image. I forget what they call it. I don't know if it's the hero image.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Cover image.
The cover. Mine is actually of Utah right now from the last Email Insiders Summit. But yeah, I think that the more that you tell people what they're getting up front, the better sign up you're going to get. And I would think that the sign ups are probably, much higher now that it's, you can actually put it on the timeline, you know, on the front of the page of your Facebook.
I know, and the nice thing is you get so much data from Facebook, you could very easily do an email append to get all those email addresses.
With that, I have a question.
Damien creating controversy.
Social is dead.
I have a question.
We said we were going to be controversial.
Andrew Kordak from Trendline Interactive. I often have a theory that social belongs with email, just not in email. And sometimes I feel as if a lot of brands are using social, like us, follow us, pin it, like it, you know, all this. And it serves as a distraction sometimes to the subscriber, because ultimately there is that call to action to do whatever, download a white paper, buy something. When would you advise clients to not use social with an email?
Bank statements.
Other than bank statements and financial
Other than
stuff.
transactional, I guess.
I think that's an interesting point. I think that you're right. There's probably a time and a place. There are probably better integrations. I think just like slapping it in there when it doesn't make any sense, obviously, you know, I don't think we want anyone to do that. You know, I like the idea of introducing social when you get someone to sign up on your website, to tell them, you know, like us on Facebook. What we've seen from Experian Hitwise is that one Facebook like brings you 20 more visits to your website. So we want to get our clients getting their customers liking on Facebook, liking on Twitter, liking on Pinterest, following. I think once you introduce it in a welcome email and you get that person liking, you can then, you know, put those links kind of in the footer, keep them there all the time. But I don't know that it needs to be, you know, in their face every single second. We also have clients who will have specific Facebook promotions, you know, Fan Fridays, things like that. I think you can have a standalone email. Those emails do really well. You know, people like, you know, getting something different on Facebook and understanding that there is a different value proposition on Facebook. Why should I be on Facebook and follow a brand? You know, what am I going to get that's different than email? And actually, a client. I love Kate Spade. They're not a client, but they were speaking at the Bizarre Voice conference, and I think she made a really great point that I think it was their VP of marketing was saying they don't use Facebook to sell necessarily. It's not a hard sell. They use it for branding. Their Facebook budget, that social budget, comes out of their brand and creative department, and they're not necessarily, you know, up there putting up 20% off promotions every second. They're talking about their, you know, the people that are in their office. They're talking about them going to Coachella. They're talking about what they're going to be packing. They're, you know, of course they're throwing in that they're bringing their, you know, Kate Spade carry-all or whatever. But I think that they're using social right, and I think the best way to use social is to incorporate it how users use it. I mean, I don't want to go on Pinterest and see you guys throwing up, you know, I don't want to see Williams-Sonoma just selling me a saucepan. Like, I want to see a recipe. And okay, fine, in the recipe, maybe you're talking about like a great, you know, chicken stock, and maybe I'll end up buying it. But that's not what Pinterest is for. That's not what people are on Facebook for. And I think thinking about how to incorporate social into email and the way that people use social, I think is the best way to look to go about it.
Okay, we have another question back.
When should they not?
I mean, when should they?
Anna,
You know,
Anna, why don't you take a shot at that one?
Well, I wasn't going to say, you know, we're so ingrained with social in the music industry that there isn't necessarily a time, but I think it's kind of sort of what Liz was saying is there's a certain amount of social content that you can put in email. I don't think you're going to put everything, and there's a ESP out there that has the social digest that says, hey, we're going to take all of your artist Twitter tweets, your Facebook posts, and we're going to put them all in an email and send them out to your fan. Now, if I wanted to see that, I would go to that person's social page. But yeah, I may have missed a couple of them, but I don't want to see all of them. I want to see what is most relevant to me. So it is really about, Dell's not here, but relevance and how that content is going to enhance the email or the engagement of that fan overall. So yeah, should you? I mean, it's going to be individualistic on each of the different products that are out here. But for music, there's probably not going to be a time when we're not going to include social.
We have time for one more question, and
Hi, Rachel Kesselman, FedEx. Do you ever see a futuristic state where we're going to be using some of the social platforms with the email function within Facebook or DM messaging through Twitter, where we're going to be communicating more through those channels versus our own email platforms? Or what are your thoughts on that? I'm just kind of curious. We've talked about pilots of stuff like that.
I would think absolutely as the generations change. I mean, I think that the younger generation is a Facebook generation. It's a text generation. That's the way they're accustomed to communicating. There's a great quote I found last year when I was putting together a Facebook presentation. It said that the people that are in high school now think that email is too formal of a channel, because you have to have a greeting, you have to have a subject, you have to have a closing, you have to sign it, and it's
LOL.
Just, right, it's just
Can't
way
use
too formal.
Smiley face, or you could use a smiley
Yeah,
face.
you could. And I think that, I think it's changed the way that I email differently than I used to 5 years ago, because I email probably more like I text. And I think that's changing things. So I think there's going to be an evolution where the world just kind of becomes more of a quip society versus a paragraph society.
I agree, but I also think those kids aren't in the workforce yet.
Not yet.
So they don't have their work emails. They're not used to communicating out to their coworkers or to their clients. I think that once they do, and I think there was an article in one of the things that was on our tables that was saying, like teenagers aren't using email, but once they get smartphones, they are. I think it's once they have that accessibility, I think that they will.
It's going to depend on your segments. So like you said, the younger generation, we might be using IM or the different functions of chat to actually do that. We have chat on a couple of our websites, actually, because we have younger kids on those websites. But email is still a great function for those that maybe it's the parents of those kids and they want to see what those kids want, so they'll put it on their birthday list or whatever. So it's really based on the segment, and you're going to have to, just like there's tons of social niches right now, we're communicating on a different level, we're sharing on a different level with those different niche segments.
I think if you look at the Facebook email address, that's the 8 million pound gorilla, and they've tried to get everyone to start using their Facebook.com email addresses. And is there any ESP here that has any kind of significant?
I think our clients are like under 1%.
Right.
It's tiny.
Yeah.
No
So that shows you that it's not going to be like all of a sudden Facebook.com is not going to become like the next Gmail. 2-3 years from now, who knows? But I think
it's definitely changing how people interact, though. I have, I try to make plans with friends, and I never know, like, okay, are they emailing me on Facebook? Are they emailing me? Am I getting a text? Like, it's starting to get really overwhelming, frankly.
Closing thoughts, Michele?
Just as when we started, I think you guys need to, on a regular, and I say regular basis, start communicating with your social media team and actually educate them on what you guys do, if you're not now, because they need the education, because the ones that I've talked to, which are quite a few, they're not thinking about you guys.
Ouch.
Sorry. Sorry.
I'm thinking about you guys.
Sorry.
All right. Well, hey, thank you all. Want to thank our panelists. And we are going to move